Welcome back to the feature engineering module. In the last couple of videos, we learned how to create features for numerical, categorical, and datetime columns. And we created all these features manually, either with the help of domain knowledge or the data that we were given. We did all this after analyzing individual features, understanding what each feature was, and how we can use that feature to give more valuable information to the model. Then we wrote code blocks for each one of them. Now, this, as you can imagine, can often be a very time consuming process. So, is there any way we can automate this whole process of creating new features? Yes, we can. There's a library called Feature Tools, which is an open source library for performing automated feature engineering. Let's understand how it works. There are three important components of feature tools: entities, feature primitives, and deep feature synthesis. To thoroughly understand these, let's take up an example dataset, and it's one you've seen before. Can you recognize this? It's the Big Mart sales dataset. In this dataset, we have quite a few number of items like item weight, we have item type, we have the item MRP, outlet identifier, among other things. And of course, the last column here, the item outlet sales, that's a target variable. Now, in feature tools, this data set is called an entity. For now, we only have one data frame here, but there can be multiple. For instance, if we have a data set that holds only the variables that you can see in the red border here, like item identifier, outlet type, outlet size, etc. While we have another data set that contains the details about things like item weight, fat content type, and so on. In that scenario, we'll have two data sets, and each of these individual data sets would be called an entity. So an entity is basically a single table or data frame. All the information of the entity or entities is stored in an entity set. So in other words, we can say that an entity set is a collection of tables. Let's now talk about feature primitives. Remember we studied about feature transformations such as log or square before, as well as feature aggregations like additions and ratio previously. Well, these aggregations and transformations are called feature primitives. Here are a few examples of the various transformations and aggregations that we can implement using feature tools. You can go ahead and pause the video for a second and just go through this list if you want. So if I have the following two features, item weight and item MRP, from the Big Mart sales dataset, we can take the sum or difference or multiplication and so on. But that's not the limit of what we can do. We can even add more variables. For example, item weight into item MRP plus item weight. You can think of the limitless things you can do using these options. This is the beauty of feature engineering. Now, this also is where the concept of deep feature synthesis comes into play. Deep feature synthesis stacks multiple transformation and aggregation operations. Although feature tools is able to create all these mathematical features automatically, but there's one thing you should keep in mind. It does not have domain knowledge, which, as we've seen previously, can play a critical role in building a better model. I would recommend using feature tools for generating new features, but you should also focus on domain understanding and apply that knowledge to create more domain specific features as well. Let's move to the notebook and implement this in Python.